All right, welcome back to the webinar about SEO in web campaigns.
Yeah, obviously we had no sound, so we're gonna do this all over again.
Yes.
That's what happened when you're live.
SEO in web campaigns.
And that happened.
Okay, so let's dive in.
Yeah, we're live on YouTube, so that's how I knew we didn't have any sound.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, just type.
Keep the YouTube tab open, and we can track every issues.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can hear us now. And if you have any comments, just type them below, and we'll try to respond in real time.
Yeah, and you can also reach us on Tom@wild.io or Sam@wild.io.
That's correct. Well, hang on a second. Like that. Okay, so here's the agenda for today. We're gonna explain what the Weld Content Academy is about.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna talk about search engine optimization, or SEO, in a broader general perspective. And we're gonna end with a couple of minutes in Weld and how SEO works in the Weld tool.
Yeah. So what is Weld Content Academy, Tom?
Well, it's an experiment from our side. We've done a couple of webinars in the past, and now we're going to try to do a series of webinars with a broader perspective on how to create great content. And we call this the Weld Content Academy.
Yeah. So if you have anything you want to learn about or so on, just tell us, because that's what we gonna try to do.
Exactly, that's great. So it doesn't have to be well related at all. If it's something about content and how you make great content for the web or other platforms, please let us know, and we can try to make a webinar about that.
Yeah.
So just to put SEO in a perspective, and also in a perspective in the Content Academy. So to build a great business online, you need two things. It's traffic and conversion. So traffic is how many people arrive on your website and where they come from. And conversion is how many of those people end up doing something, usually buying something.
Okay. So in what category does SEO?
It falls into the traffic category because search engines is one way of finding your content or website or products and arriving on your website. But great content, of course, affects conversion, but not from an SEO perspective.
So why is search engine optimization important?
So there's many answers to this question. The one that I think is the key one here is that searching is an action, it's an activity that the user does. If you compare to just like browsing Instagram and seeing an ad for something, or you get an email from a company explaining or telling you about their new products, or maybe you see a billboard out on the city, that's more sort of pushing ads or content in your face. And being on Google or another search engine and actively searching for something, then you are in a much different mindset. You are much more prone to actually taking an action once you find what you're looking for. So that's what makes search engine optimization and search engines in general very interesting.
So what is the difference between SEO and SEM?
Yeah, that's confusing, right? It almost sounds the same.
Yeah.
Only one letter difference. And they are a bit related, but SEO is organic search, how your content is discovered by Google and other search engines just by itself, just by being great content. SEM is paid advertising in search engines. You know, those green links that you see on top? That's SEM.
Okay.
And they are sort of interconnected in a way, because Google, for instance, will actually lower your price for search ads if you have content that matches the keywords better. So if you have better content, you have more sort of cost-effective advertising as well. So they do tie together, but it's also a big difference between what's actually organic or just sort of free traffic and what's paid traffic.
So Tom, what are some important factors in its SEO?
There are many, but I would say there's two big ones that have been with us from the dawn of search engines, and that's having great content is one of them. Great content that people want to look at and also want to link to. What's less known, I think, is that it's also important to have unique content.
Okay.
Sometimes you can be you want to just copy paste something because you found it really interesting, but that could actually punish you in a search engine perspective. In Google's frame of mind, their sort of ideal world is that there's one single answer or single truth to every question or every search query that you can pose, and everybody else should just link to that page with that answer. And if you start duplicating content, then Google gets a bit confused and doesn't know what content is actually the best one.
Okay.
Of course, you can do a summary of an article and post that summary, and that in turn, your new summary becomes a unique piece of content. But you should be wary about just straight copy pasting. And in that sense, it's also you might want to think about where you want to have your content. Like we used to be much more active before on medium.com, which is a popular blog platform. But we had to make a decision. Should we continue posting content on medium.com or should we host it on our own blog, on our site? And we ended up going back to our own site and dismissing Medium. The second thing, also important, has been there for ages, is links and how many people or how many pages are linking to your content. And this was actually what made Google stand apart when it came, was it 20 years ago, more? Was that it used this sort of, instead of just indexing all the content, it actually looked at how many people are linking to it as a kind of social proof for how important this article is or content. So those two are the big ones, are super important. And then there's a number of smaller factors that have been changing recently quite a bit and continue to change. But I mean, Google has recently made it a much higher priority on page speed, that your content loads quickly, and can punish your search ranking if you have a slow page. Similar with your page being mobile friendly and responsive. It's also very important, especially of course if you're searching from a mobile device, it will actually show you the mobile friendly content before the other content. And then if your page is hosted on a secure server, it's also important.
So what makes a page secure?
Maybe you've seen when you browse, sometimes you see a little padlock in your browser. That's the difference. It's a protocol called HTTPS. It's becoming more or less standard now. It's rare that you don't see the padlock, I would say, these days. But sometimes you occasionally stumble on a site that doesn't have this. But it's basically a proof, a guarantee that the person or the company showing you the content provides a secure path to your computer.
Okay.
And allows no sort of middleman to come in between and interrupt the traffic. And there's a couple of more smaller factors as well, but these are the big ones, I would say. So should we just give a very quick intro to what Weld is about before we start looking
yes,
at the tool?
You can say that Weld is a design tool that integrates in all CMS platforms or just any platform that your website is hosted on. And we have created Weld a bit like PowerPoint, so just to make it as easy as possible. So everything is drag and drop based, and you can create a lot of smart animations, really anything that you need code for in any day. So Tom, describe a bit how you see the future in Weld.
Well, one thing we talk about a lot is something called Publish Anywhere.
Okay.
and that you should be able to publish your content on a variety of platforms, and from one sort of single source, just push out content on many platforms. And this could be the web. That's sort of where we started. And we just early this week we actually launched the ability to export images to email and social media. We also have done some pilots with digital signs in stores. So you have content created in Weld and then running on a tablet or something in a store, and many other channels that are interesting. Banner ads, for instance.
So basically, we want the creativity to flow.
Yeah, yeah, and also like you can have with without having a super big team or also being very resource effective, you can sort of publish and reuse content on a number of platforms. Anyway, let's look at SEO in Weld. I'm going to start with showing you some pages. And here's one of our customers called Odd Molly. And they are a fashion shop. They have both physical stores and e-commerce. And on their start page here, about 50% of what you see is made in Weld. There's a number of ways we can integrate Weld with their website. And Odd Molly are using our fast and simple way of doing it. It's a small script that you paste into your page. One big drawback usually with those kind of solutions is that it hurts SEO.
Okay.
But we've spent a lot of resources on building a solution that works great with SEO. And it's called a friendly iframe. So for instance, if you embed a YouTube clip on your website, it uses an iframe, which is sort of a little window, a little browser window within a browser window in a sense. But a normal iframe is a link to another page. So when you embed your YouTube clip on your website, Google will find this content and realize it's hosted on youtube.com. So all the search terms and SEO traffic, SEO sort of juice will be attributed to youtube.com instead of, in this sense, in this case, oddmolly.se.
So if you create content in Weld,
yeah,
would it not bounce back to Weld?
No, that's the big difference, because with this friendly iframe technique, we make sure that the Google will perceive the content as actually being hosted on Odd Molly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big difference. So it will scan through the content, look at all the text and all the images and so on, and make sure all those keywords are attributed to Odd Molly.
That's great.
Also, one thing. I mean, it may sound simple, but I mean, I see a lot of e-commerce companies still using that. Is that they place, they use text in Photoshop and type text, and it becomes a big image with the text embedded, and that makes it harder for Google to find the content, the text that they're using. If you're, for instance, describing a product. And that text, that description is actually part of the image, it of course becomes much harder for Google to find it. There's something called an alt tag that's used to add text descriptions to images, and that helps you some of the way, but not all the way. And a benefit here is that you can separate. So text is text. Like this is selectable text, and Google will perceive it as such and can easily read it. And all these buttons here are text buttons, so Google can understand. It can read the link, see where you're linking to, follow those links, and so on. So it's really ideal from a Google point of view. And the content is also responsive. So see if I can. Just do like this, and and that's also something that Google likes. I'm going to jump into the tool itself and show you just the basics of SEO in Weld, and it's quite. I mean, the parameters you can adjust are not that many. It's quite simple actually. And most of it sort of is very standard SEO practice. So all these like text objects are text that you can edit, will become normal HTML text that Google can easily read. You can place alt tags on images. If you select an image, you have a description field, and you can type in a description of the image. That will help Google to understand what the image is about. And then one important thing is headlines. So Google likes to see one headline on each page.
Okay.
And you know, if you are working in Microsoft Word or Google Docs, you have this hierarchy of heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, and so on. That works the same on the web. And Google expects you to have one header 1 on a page. Mm-hmm. You can have, of course, have multiple header 2s, header 3s, and so on. So here under advanced text options, I can select header 1. So this text object here becomes a header 1. And Google will sort of put extra weight on that. And then you can select other text objects and make them header 2 and so on in the same way. Actually, Google does put some emphasis on text that you make bold or italic. It will look at that differently than the rest of the text.
In what way?
So Google understands that text that is bolded is more important for some reason. Okay. So it will sort of give those words more weight. And the same thing with headlines. Most of our users are embedding content on their own websites, which means that we can't affect the page title that up in the title bar and the description for the entire page and so on, which is also important SEO factors. Would you, for some reason, we have a few customers, Whirlpool, for instance, that publishes standalone campaign websites. Then we offer more SEO parameters in the sense that you can provide a title for the entire page, and you can provide a description for the page. Both of these are really important for Google. But if you're embedding content, the information you put in here doesn't have any impact. It will take whatever title and description you have on your normal CMS. Mm-hmm. A little tidbit regarding titles and descriptions is that Google recently made them more generous in terms of length. Before they had to be quite short, but now you can have, I think they say 70 characters for the title and 300 characters for the description, which is quite a lot actually. It's like 2 tweets.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. But that's about it. SEO is very sort of effortless in Weld. You don't really have to worry about it that much. You just create your content the way you would create a PowerPoint presentation. And the only thing that you sort of, where you have, can keep in mind is to just provide a description for your images and make sure you have one or several headlines on your page. That's it.
That's it. So if you have any questions or topics that you want us to talk about next time, just email us.
Yeah.
Selma at Weld.io or Tom at Weld.io.
Exactly. And then we hope to see you at the next Weld Content Academy session.
Yeah.
Take care.
See
Goodbye.
you next time.